Welcome to the last round of Season 9 of the RP Series here at Belgium's other racetrack in Zolder. I am Jack, I'll be your commentator for tonight. We are going to enjoy a wonderful practice, finishing up qualifying and then 50 minutes of the last racing for RP Series this year. I hope everyone is having a good evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you are watching this. Let's get ready for some qualifying. We have 17 talented, wonderful, beautiful, handsome drivers with us this evening. And I will go over some of the standings for the RP Series. We have a couple of our championships all locked up. Let's get us back into contention. We're going to ride along with Martin Kovacs, who has pretty much locked up first position because his champion rival, Robin Moe, is not here tonight, which may be disappointing for some, but for Kovacs allows him to just relax and enjoy the race. We have a fight for third in that series between Jameek Smith and Matthew Marlowe, both of which are in tonight. Mr. Smith in the 107 Bentley and Mr. Marlowe in the 549 Porsche. As I say that we're riding along with Kovacs, he has returned to pits. Let's get you some up to date with Mr. Jameek Smith in the 107 Bentley, who's now leaving the pits. We'll have this on for you to enjoy. So that means for our platinum drivers, it is a battle for the third spot in the championship that we're going to be watching along throughout tonight. And depending on how it goes, even Pierre Moreno in that 922 has a shot at bronze. In silver, similar situation except for two positions. We've got Mbenke, who is it today, in the 149 Aston Martin, clear in the lead of the championship. His nearest competitor, Udadorp, is not with us this evening. So that means that Mr. J. Andrews, in one of the team wins McLarens, is going to be more than likely taking that second place home if something catastrophic happens. Jurgens Oosthausen also not with us tonight, and neither is Gottlieb. So again, many positions coming up to the Christmas holidays. A few of our drivers who have fought so valiantly through the first part of the season, unfortunately not with us for this race. So where it gets interesting is it's going to get interesting down in our bronze. We have about half the field being our bronze drivers. Khan Akil battling back from a points penalty from Mount Panorama, is trying to fight back up to get some good positions. And then we've got the number 17 of Gil, who's trying to get some good results again. But it's all about Curtis, the number 90 Porsche, 3 wins on the season. Only Schlobum in the 951 taking a win off him at Australia, who is clear in the lead. So unfortunately, there's not going to be a lot of chat about the positions changing in the championship. But that does mean that rather than having to constantly do math throughout the session, I can just focus on some good, well done racing by 17 very interesting humans. So we will go on board with Mr. Daniel Scott as he's coming along for his first big qualifying. And as I think about that, it looks like he's actually invalidated that lap. So let's look at the other team wins car. Beautiful, beautiful livery there, which I do not have. What I'll do is I will get that fixed, so bear with me. We'll get that all sorted up. What have we got? There you go, Moreno in that lovely white and purple. Some technical difficulties, just bear with me. I do apologise for anyone watching there for that short technical break. It seems like some of the liveries have broken, so I just quickly refreshed my connection and it all worked there. So, bit of an impromptu covering for our normal, wonderful, shouty man, Husky, who unfortunately is not well enough to be with us today. So let's start having a look at where people are lining up for qualifying. So Kovacs has come in with a absolutely wonderful 28.0. That is 7/10 faster than Luis Anas and Lucht, who is in that. A lot of Porsches today at Zolder. Seems like a very popular car for that top flight. People to keep an eye on, though, could see some upsets from the silver drivers. Andrews, Benke and Scott all could get up there today, potentially improving themselves for the next season. And we are going to be on board with Kovacs for a little while we enjoy him absolutely tearing up Zolder. A track I am not massively familiar, but that is a good take of that final hairpin. A wonderful green and red Porsche coming up into that last left-hander with one of the potentially one of the most dangerous pit entries we'll see in GT racing quite a lot. Alright, and I don't know if anyone is in the YouTube chat, but I hope everyone is enjoying themselves this week. Christmas not too far away. New year upcoming and a new season of RP series to join in with. If anyone in particular has a specific driver they want an update on, just put a message in. I will cut to them and we will ride alongside for them. But yeah, interior with Luke, someone who specifically asked for this stream, as potentially some fanboys and fangirls out for the driver. Absolutely beautiful Porsche. I absolutely adore the blue and black livery on that. Just looks excellent around this track. One of our absolutely wonderful directors deep in the chat. Just speaking of the marvelous Jameek Smith, going around for a quali lap. Let's ride alongside with him in the 107 Bontley. It's going to be a wide boy, but he's going to have to keep it nice and tight. This track is quite technical, but one of the more shorter tracks that we race at, and a little bit more technical. There is a lot of maintenance, throttle, a lot of quite a few shifts compared to your standard tracks, but not much flat out. And when it is flat out, it's there's normally some kind of brutal, hard braking zone with not really the space for an overtaking manoeuvre. Because he goes for that left-handed, he can't get ready for a second left apex into the tight chicane. You can take a lot of it, but it looks like he took a little bit too much, and it looks like that's invalidated the lap. Let's see what else is going on. We have an interesting lap from Moreno, currently 3/10 up, but how is he going to end up after this? Is it enough to get another position? It is. It's just enough to take the position from Jameek as he slows down and takes up the mantle. He's going to stop up and get back to pits. And we're going to snap to look at Kovacs, who again, despite already being a second quicker, as we can see, current fastest lap times, he is on a 27.7. Next fastest is a 28.6. So that is just under a full second quicker than his next rival. He has taken the German engineering and taken it to Belgium again. So we're gonna enjoy looking at that all race long. So with just under 10 minutes left in qualifying, we have a slightly special format for this race, as you might have seen if you were watching the splash card. We have a 50-minute race, so slightly shorter than our normal hour sprints, with one mandatory stop. You do not need to change tyres. It is mandatory refuel only. So, the minimum stop time is a little bit shorter than the time it takes to change tyres for these GT3s. So, if you don't take tyres, you're going to get a slightly quicker pit. But you're also going to have to make those tyres last 50 whole minutes. Now, what that is going to do to the strategy, we will have to uncover as time goes by. Our normal strategic masterminds in Robin Moe and Thomas Jack, unfortunately not with us tonight. So we're going to have to see how the gentlemen up and down the grid deal with that. Let's get online with Marlowe, who's currently sitting in P6 in that 549 Porsche. The Flyboys, at least said red and yellow, but black and yellow. Wiz Khalifa would not be happy with me for getting that wrong. And yeah, with those tyres as steep as correctly identified there, that janky pit entry with a pit stop that may just be a splash and dash towards the end, or some people might try and go and take the early pit stop and just race past everyone. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm gonna hope that everyone has done some pit entry practices in the practice sessions they've had this afternoon, as well as their own free time over the weeks. Just to make sure that we don't have anyone trying to dive bomb a la China for F1. If anyone has seen some of those races before the COVID breaks, that pit entry can be relatively insane. Let's get back on with some laps. Mick Smith currently a couple attempts quicker on his fastest lap. Going up to the final little left-right. Not quite a chicane, two very distinct corners, but you kind of have to treat it like one. It's going to be absolutely glorious over the line. He is potentially just a little bit quicker, but not enough to get into that third spot. He will still be on the second row. Speaking of a little bit quicker, Luis Anas in that 111. The beautiful little purple McLaren. See how he's doing coming out of the last corner. Again, about a tenth up, but Kovacs is so incredibly far in front that it's not exactly going to be easy to catch him. Let's just hope for the point of an exciting race that it is just qualifying pace. But I'm looking at someone, Daniel Scott, who just went 7/10 quicker on that lap, put himself right up in that silver driver, right up there with the silver driver category where it should be, just behind our platinum drivers. And then Curtis, who's now a 10th quicker, coming out of the chicane up towards, which I believe is the left-hand kink into the right-hand hairpin, or is he on track? Oh no, it looks like he's coming. Yeah, all the way to that right-hand hairpin, ready on that second, that kind of like split pitch straight, where you've got two very long straights with a heavy braking zone in between. It seems like as the track is cooling down, and if you look on our radar, potentially cooling down enough where there is some slight changes in the weather coming up, so maybe those early laps, maybe Kovacs got out nice and early, got that lap linked in. It's not quite able to improve just because the track is not at the temperature they need to maximise some of these faster corners. Well, we're now coming up to 5 minutes left on qualifying. Not much has changed positional wise, and most people who are on green laps are green by a couple of hundredths. Could make the makings of a very interesting race, especially as the results matter more for bronze than they do for anything else. But most of our final championship positions have been locked in. And we will grab the free championship winners at the end of this next 50-minute session. Have a little chat about them, about the season, see what they're interested in for next season. There we go. Thank you very much, Deep. I'm trying to do this on the fly, but that's a really good thing. Yeah, let's have a look at these time breaks. As you can see, I've been saying about the gap that Kovacs has had, and it has come down a little bit, but nowhere near as much. Let's have a look at Nilsson, who Rufus asked us to have a look at. Absolutely gorgeous livery. Can't quite see what's on there. Looks like they've got the Italian flag going. Team Snail Esports absolutely bombing it down that straight. Needs to get, has a couple of more laps to go for Nilsson. Needs a couple more attempts to get over at Akil. But otherwise we'll be sitting behind Benke on the thing. And it looks like there's some time trying to come down. Valverand has just started a new lap. So why don't we just go on board. And we'll go passenger side with Valverand. And enjoy a lap towards the end of qualifying around Zolder. Oh, decided to, he's abandoned that lap unfortunately. So let's go to Jameek on board, who is that 10th quicker, who has potentially got the time to get up to third, be on the more optimal side for the starting procedure. Yellow flags out of the slight left, slight right, all that acceleration now. He's currently 3.5 tenths up, which, as you can see from the timing tree, will put him in third. Nice late on the brakes, gain a tenth there, but a little bit slow exit. Drag race to the finish, and he's much, much quicker. This is going to be an absolute barnstorm lap. That puts him into second. Speaking of putting him into second, though, he's only a few hundredths, and Listeners has got traffic as the way to catch up. Let's have a look. Yeah, he's slowing up, getting ready for that final lap, giving him a bit more gap. It's going to be, and it looks like Valverde has had a bit of a spin. Yellow flag down off. And here we go. This will be one of the final laps. If he's got enough fuel to make another one, but oh, he's a little bit slow as he got it. He just keeps the speed, and there are some faster people further down, including T. Curtis, who is currently about 2 tenths faster, and Michael Benge, who's got 3. Not the boat. Boat is here. The boat is enjoying it. Let's just hope he can't catch the boat. Oh, the big jump! That has not invalidated the lap. He's still good to go, but he's losing time. He's going to have to make up 3 tenths in these last couple of sectors without invalidating to keep this going. He is slightly slower than he wants to be coming out of here. Very dangerous car pulling off on the left on the exit of the corner, around the hairpin. He's gaining time. He's got to full send it. Full send all the way. He's going to have to be incredibly late on the brakes for this left-hander and really early on the throttle. He's getting a 10th out of there. Oh, but it's really slow. I don't think he believed, but I think we did. Speaking of believing, Felix Viel, Aramax Racing, is currently 2 tenths up on their fastest lap. It's not going to be a huge thing, but it's going to be big. Oh, that is very quick through that chicane. That has gained them 6 tenths. The beautiful pink machine of this relatively new driver for us, number 27 BMW. Qualifying has officially ended. This is going to be everyone's last time round. He's a bit wiggly out of it, but he's got a Bentley pushing him behind. Unfortunately for the Bentley of, I think, Jameek Smith, that is it for his qualifying. Whereas Viel is currently 6 tenths quick. That's a good few positions for them. A lot of cars are coming into the pits. That looks like it's going to be the end of our qualifying session. Marlow in the fly, boys. He's only a couple of hundredths slower than his best lap, but he would need to gain 4 tenths in this last corner to change the last positions. But that's a very quick exit, but very small amount of track to do it in. That is the end of qualifying. And we will run down your people. We have a few people that didn't get a full qualifying lap in, but let us get this going. So we have Jameek Smith lining up right behind Kovacs in the front row of our platinum class of the GT3s. We've got Luis Hutson Lex on row 2. Row 3 is Moreno and Marlow. So that is a all Porsche third row. And an all McLaren fourth row. Both of the Wins racing cars. Daniel Scott and James Andrews going to absolutely roll themselves over. Being very happy with that result. Curtis and for Waterboy and Varvard for the Garage 5090 car. Going to enjoy that in bronze behind them. Mike Bank in the V12 Aston. Hopefully going to kind of improve his positions as the race goes with that very, very strong engined car. Aramax Racing's Felix Viev lines up alongside him. And then row 7 is going to be Can Akil and Isaac Nilsson, the Team Snail Esports driver, the 115 Ferrari. And riding up behind them on our final row is going to be Frederick Schlobem and Sam Maudsley, who joined us quite late, didn't really get a qualifying time in, and is going to be one to watch as he makes his way through the field in that boat power. So I'm going to throw this over to anyone currently out there on the YouTube live chat. I think there's about 8 of you currently. Does anyone have a favourite? Does anyone have someone they want to ride alongside for that first all-important lap? And a very late entry. Chris Brown, the Flyboys 909 Porsche, has just been able to make it out of the garage. Got to the grid in time, but will start on their lonesome. Right behind Maudsley. Well, 30 seconds till our pacing lap. And then, for some reason, it looks like we actually have an hour-long race. Other end. Alright, Daniel Varvarud. James has got an absolutely beautiful view right behind Pierre's wonderful little Porsche. Let's be a passenger on the 70 at McLaren of Daniel Varvarud. He's got some fans in the chat today. He's got an absolutely amazing view of the flying winds. Those two purple and orange McLarens. Oh, as we hear the engine start up, has a special place in our heart. Hopefully that race timer will sort itself out as we go. If it doesn't, we might just have to enjoy an extra 10 minutes of racing from Racing Pals. For a second, because I mentioned how good it looks. Let's get on board with Marlow for a few corners as we can look at the rear end of the 922 Porsche. Pierre Moreno, always a absolute wonderful driver, wonderful human. good to hopefully see him go up some places. With a lot of Porsches about, it's going to be more about driver skill, practice and setup, rather than the pure amount of horses you have under your hood. And let's have a look at our drivers. First of all, in first place, we've got Martin Kovacs, Absolute Racing. Demeek Smith in the boat. Gonna be right alongside him at the start. Chris from No Big Deal, 158 Porsche. Mantas LIU's 111. Pierre Moreno, Spectre Racing Pals. One of our homegrown talents, the 922 coming in from France. Matthew Marlowe, a Flyboy representative, along with Chris Brown. The two Wins Copper Suit Car Racing Team drivers in our silver class. Todd Curtis for the Waterboy team. Fan favourite, it seems. Garage 59's Daniel Varverud. Number 70, McLaren. Hopefully everyone can enjoy his race today. Mike Benk, one of our absolutely amazing people. Looks like as he comes around the hairpin. Helicam. Kovacs. Lining up on the inside. So he's going to be inside on that first corner as they carefully come around the last two corners of what is a historic track. And as Deep Cut says, as soon as they cross the line, it is time for the last race of RP Season 9, Round 5 at Zolder. We've got it soon in 1 hour. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. As Martin Kovacs keeps his lead coming into the first corner. But Demeek Smith is right behind him. They are too wide the entire way down the track. They are going to keep this tight, controlled, and a little bit of contact as well, because why not go out of a bang, eh, boys? But Demeek looks like he's going to get that position. Demeek Smith in first place on the end of the first so far. Now, can the Bentley Raw Power keep up with that? Can he keep up that pace for the rest of this race? We're hoping so. It's looking like it's going to be good. But there is a drive-through for Pierre Moreno. Now, did Pierre potentially go a little bit over the speed limit for the start of the race? We will not know until we get a proper re-look at the footage. But as I say that, rain is coming down. So that whole idea of a single pit stop with no tyre changes, if anyone has started on dry tyres, that is not an option for them. And from looking at the sliding, I don't think people were expecting the rain. Now, are we going to see an early pit stop from Demeek? Is he going to try and... Did he expect the rain? Did he know this was coming? There are cars all over the place. Sliding around. I don't think they're on wet tyres, boys. I think we have got a situation that has emerged from people not realising that it could be wet. Now, they should be blaming their garage for this. They should have known this. They should have had the weather reports up and seen what's going on. But we've got some drivers in the pits. James Andrews and Daniel Scott are in the pits because I think they were on dry tyres as well. No one looked at the weather. And, you know, it's Belgium. It's not exactly known for its bright, sunny showers in the winter. And the track is looking a little bit scuffed out there, and as some people make the changes for the tyres just to not be dangerous, Demeek Smith either is on dry tyres and is just a wizard, or called it. Anyone that's called this as a wet race early on, yeah, is going to be an absolute genius. Now, that could be partially why Pierre also had the issue with the drive-through at the start. If he's on dry tyres, which looks like he has gone into change and not serve the drive-through for now. If you're on dry tyres and that's not going to be where you want it. Now, there is definitely an issue with the race timer. It looks like it was set up for an hour. So rather than a 50-minute race, this is now going to be a full hour experience. And yeah, I think Deep has got it absolutely right in our live chat. Jameek has made an absolute worldie of a call and has put himself on wet tyres. No wonder he had so much grip going into that first and second corner, and it's only going to get wetter as the track as it goes on. So everyone's going to have to start pitting. Everyone's going to be sliding about the place. Let's have a look at where Daniel Varver is. Is he on wet or dry tyres? He must be on the wets as well. We've got a lot of people. Mike Benke a little bit slipping and sliding off the place. Now Curtis and Nilsson also coming into the pits. That absolutely great Team Snail livery. But sometimes you just don't call it. And that's going to make this race way more interesting as we've got Listeners and Kovacs racing for position. Now coming down to the second chicane. That braking zone in the wet weather is going to be a lot more treacherous, as you can see. A little bit of sideways action from Kovacs. We're in Belgium, not Tokyo. You don't need to be drifting. And we do know the Porsches like to go a little bit sideways when they're not set up to be as safe as possible, but the wets is going to be even worse. And Maudsley already up to P5. Someone that was only able to get out of the garage late. Looking very comfortable in the Boatley. Speaking of comfortable in the Boatley, it looks like Jameek as well as Luke are coming into the pit. Now, this could be a strategy call. As it's wet, they may not be expecting tyres to go as quickly as you might think. So maybe it's a case of now they're fueling up for the rest of the race and they're just going to keep it consistent, keep it on the track, and keep on keeping it on. Whereas Kovacs and, Duisenas are going to keep on trucking, maybe fuel up halfway through the race. It's going to be a relatively interesting race for them. Ben can get the overtake as VL has a little bit of a wiggle in the BMW. Jameek now exiting the pits. Now this is probably going to be all of the fuel that he takes for the rest of the race. But let's keep an eye with your current leaders, Kovacs and Luzinus. Let's get a nice little view. Looks like they might already be lapping some people that have pitted early. What I am going to be doing for yourselves as well is keeping an eye on where Pierre Moreno is in the standings. Had to pit early as he was, it looks like, had taken out dries into this condition. And then had that drive through to serve for an error in the starting procedure. Now, exactly how that's going to affect him in the long run, we have yet to see. Yeah, getting nice and close. Also close, Jay Andrews and Chris Brown. The Wins Copper Suit Car team car coming up to the hairpin to try and get that Flyboys 909 Porsche out of his way. Now, although it's a battle position, they are in different categories, a silver and a platinum driver. So, although it is a matter of pride and getting a slower driver out of your way if you think you're faster, it will not actually increase your championship points, which I think is a really interesting decision to make. Do you push? Do you use more fuel and tyre to try and get past the driver? But when it's not your race, does it really help? That's one of the big decisions with this kind of like same class of car but different categories setup that we have here for the RP series. It adds a little bit of nuance to your strategy that just pure mixed class doesn't quite allow. There is currently a large gap between P4 and 5 of about 50 seconds. This is going to add up relatively rapidly. And James and Chris, look at this battle coming up. Like I say, pushing out, he's going around the outside. Which means if he can brake late, which he's not going to want to do in the wet. Oh, and they nearly come together. That could have been a lot worse. That car behind them is not currently for position. They are free to race to their heart's content. Oh, and he's getting unlapped quite viciously. Can't quite see who that is. Oh, that is a kill who has just gone off, I think. Partially because there's some potential contact. Oh, he tries to come back on the lap and he's just not got the space and just kind of gets pinballed out. That's very unfortunate. I'll have to see what the stewards say about that. As the last race, it was a bit of a risky move to go for. But we'll see if we find fault in either car or if it was just a racing incident. For see, Kill is now firmly in last position, about 40 seconds off Daniel Scott. Let's get back into some exciting action because Jameek Smith is right up beside the NBD car. We have a yellow flag somewhere out track for a 27 BMW of VL. Bit slow, maybe on the grass, lost a couple of seconds. And there we go. Get a good exit. Jameek Bentley giving you that weight to keep yourself planted. He's firmly over the inside, late braking, does the move. Now he's just got to defend for that long double apex right-hander at the start of Zolder. Which is where the Porsche kind of gets to abuse its setup and how the car's constructed and keep it in. But when you're on that wet line, you just can't quite keep it. There's a dry line forming, but rain is going to be increasing for the next little while, and then towards the end of this race is going to die off, so that wet line is going to get a little bit more. And as we see, Nilsson just gets overtaken by Chris Brown. Looks like same's going to happen from Mr. Andrews as well, but this is giving Chris a nice little buffer to work with. Now this is for position, so Nilsson does not need to give up the space, and the Team Stale car can keep it as much as he wants. He will be potentially infuriating cars behind who may think that he should move out of the way because it's not his battle, but his battle can be what he decides. He's not blue flagged, he's not cut the track or anything, he's just going to defend, and it's going to get a little bump draft. Slow out of the second chicane. We're going to just enjoy some fun little racing between McLaren and Ferrari. Finally, the battle is pretty much over. But who's that we see coming up behind them? Is that potentially a Mr. Martin Kovacs, who is now looking at lapping the 10th place car? A lot of the cars have pitted. Everyone looks to have done it. Let's see if have a quick look at who has done their pits and who hasn't. So we're looking at top 4 not pitting so far: Kovacs, Luizas, Mosley, and Benke, as well as Chris Brown and Hill. It was 4 laps down despite not doing their pit for the race. Which we'll have to have a look at what happened to them after the race. Potentially that spin, potentially some other incident. But yeah, it's looking like they're already catching. Their drivers around should know that there's not really their fight. Who's Kovac's yet to pit. It's going to have either a short or a long one. Zolder's pit lane, not that long of a pit lane, but the pit exit is comparable to somewhere like Spa, and it kind of rejoins the track at an awkward angle, so you can't really keep the momentum from that exit. But let's have a look at another close fight. For position, Marlowe of the Flyboys, a Slowman of race time, a regular in that wonderful Bentley, and he loses it a little bit and goes off the track. Slow getting back on. Oh, here's a little bit of a nudge, but lets the car go by. Yeah, but misjudged braking in the wet. Has now got another fast car in Pierre Moreno. These two know each other very well, have raced alongside each other for a while. Looks like the Porsche got a really good thing. The respect there from the Bentley to give the space on the inside. Didn't really have to, but thought better of it. It's going to have a nice slow brake. Give the position with grace and dignity, as they say. But again, close racing up front. Kovacs and Louisianus have just got past some more lap back traffic. They're not quite putting in barnstormer laps, doing the 135s in the wet. A little bit of traffic holding them up, a little bit of the weather starting to improve. And it looks like Lutz has been given a drive-through penalty. Cutting the corner on some of those chicanes a little bit has probably bit him in the arse for that one. He's going to have to serve that in the next few laps. Otherwise might feel the wrath of Kunos themselves. But that is disappointing. It was looking like going to be a fun race. I had already done his pit stop, so I was kind of keeping in lockstep with Jameek. I was going to do that very risky pit entry. I was going to take it nice and easy. Marlowe, we talked about, they've just had yellow flags for Marlowe. Let's have a look, him spinning in the background. And he's just put himself in the travel trap, got himself back going, but all that work with him and Moreno pushing up the grid has now just kind of fallen back down in P14. With only Daniel Scott and see a kill behind him, but both of them a fair ways off. Speaking of yellows, Jameek Smith in the wall. Just caught that early yellow flag as he dips his toes, overcorrects it like it looked, but I hope that's not got much damage for him. Looked like quite a hefty hit. But as they say, the Bentley is a boat, so should be able to plough through just fine. We'll have to see if it's too tough for him to handle. He is currently 42 seconds behind the car in front of him. And we don't know quite how long the pit stops will be for these late stoppers. Just because they're going to be adding in potentially some more fuel. And the track conditions might have changed. So using the wet weather pit stop might not be that useful. But not a lot of wind. It's relatively chilly at Zolder for this race. But we're just going to keep on keeping on. And something that is semi-surprising, but we've had a little while ago, we had a change of position for first. I did not even notice it. It looks like it might have been a little bit of an off, but they're still within a few tenths of each other, which is just very impressive the whole way around. Apologies, I didn't miss that change for first place with Mr. Mantas Louisianus, now your first place driver. We'll ride with him for a little while. This seems like an interesting place to be. Coming up to some blue flag traffic for the both of them. Through the back of that beautiful McLaren. And there is the blue flag car of Chris Brown in between them. Take a slightly longer line, not get quite the speed, but hopefully he gives the place to Kovacs and doesn't try and defend on the inside there, which is good. It's very, very good. Kovacs definitely lost some time trying to get round the 909 Porsche. Got some close battling between Pierre Moreno and fan favourite Nilsson, one of the drivers for Team Snails. Going up. Oh, and he just keeps it to the outside enough that Pierre doesn't want to send it. A little bit of a hop, a little bit of a skip. And some good yumping. Oh, and again, a little bit of a bump drop, a little bit of a corner cut. Again, as we saw, if too many of those, you're going to get a drive-through auto-assigned to you. Not something that there's anyone really there to you to appeal, because it's clear cut. You'll get enough warnings, and that was a little bit of a aggressive overtake, but Pierre has to get him cleared, because he's now got a class rival in front of him, 12 seconds down the road. Both of them have had a drive-through, so this is really the battle for that position. We'll see how they go. Let's get on board now with James Andrews. Chasing down the back of Chris Brown after a little bit of traffic for the both of them. A little bit slow on the exit of that chicane. This is all three of these in position with Curtis Brown and Andrews all lining up slow through the second chicane onto that right-hander, setting you up for a pretty much flat out all, but not flat out in these cars, because enough power and enough water and you're going to have that kind of slippage happen to you even with traction control. You need to get a good exit out of this. Use all of that curb on the right side to keep the car straight as an arrow. Hard braking into the first of the chicane and the second part of the chicane. Good exit energy, momentum, all these other buzzwords that I hear people say on TV all the time. But what it actually is it's just about keeping yourself as close to that brake light of the car in front of you through these slower sections. Using all of the tools available to you. You know, throttle control, the right amount of braking pressure, the assists for anti-lock brakes and traction control. Keeping them at the right levels throughout the track. Making sure that you're using the right amount of fuel per lap, as well as some of these drivers have pitted early, and that will dictate the fact that they might have to they might have planned for a 50-minute race and have only just realized after their pit stop that it's actually an hour long. Of course, stewards will be looking at any incidents, and they will be reprimanding the race control for miscalibrating the clock for this race, as they're advertised to all the teams and spectators as 50 minutes. Some people might have to be ringing up taxi companies, getting a little bit of a later drive out. This is very fun because Chris looked as the no big deal 158 has joined this party of 4. That means we now have 4 racers within a couple of seconds of each other, all fighting for position, and this is where that fun is going to go. Luis Nas has just gotten away with it. Has now got a 1.5 second gap to Kovacs behind him. Neither of them pitted still, so we'll keep an eye out for when that pit stop happens. Lux has got past Andrews, who's had a couple of bad breaks on the wet. Hoping that the track dries up sooner rather than later. It's been looking at slowing down the rain for the last 20 minutes, and we're still waiting on that to come in. Chris Brown of the Flyboys, that 909 Porsche, coming up behind the 9-0 in front of him of Curtis, who is just an absolutely incredible driver. Although he's in our bronze classification, he's more than proved himself this season, and is just showing an impeccable talent for driving in the wet here, just within tenths of some of the drivers in our top class on most laps, and getting around traffic superbly, keeping himself in the run the whole way round. Oh, Chris Brown potentially going for an aggressive manoeuvre. The wet weather is not going to allow that at all. Yeah, and just getting to see that wonderful overtake. Curtis not quite getting the grip. What happened with that second overtake for him? A little bit wiggly. And the other cars just kind of follow each other on that dry line. He doesn't squeeze too tight, but staying on the wet slowed him real down for that. And as we missed, Nilsson gets Marlowe. Let's go back and have a look at that as well. Marlowe having a bit of a slow T1. Nilsson just being able to absolutely power it away, getting a position for Team Snail Racing. Very decent. Indeed. Let's get back on board with Chris Brown, because although they've overtaken, there's a yellow flag as I say that. Marlowe, once again involved in something, coming down behind the Team Snail guy, between Nilsson. Absolutely beautiful, but hits too much of the curb, hits him in the back end and gets spun out. But luckily, is able to just almost Charles Leclerc-esque get a full 360 degrees of rotation, and there are yellow flags for Chris Brown. And looked what has happened. Slow into the chicane. Something must have happened. They might have got caught up in traffic. Let's have a look what happened there. They come in and he just bunts a car that was not racing to position, and that just slows everyone, brings everyone together. Let's see where they are now after coming out of that. Because now we've got a lot of cars bunched up together that really weren't previously. Andrews and Curtis and Luke and Brown all still fighting for that P6 position. Nelson's coming to the pits for their pit stop, for their drive-through penalty. Very unfortunate for them, but like I said, you get enough warnings. Kunos will slam you with that. And let's see how these Porsches, same car, very different stories for this race. Brown coming in late, starting from the back of the grid. I believe yet to pit as well. So still has a pit stop for him to take. And looked getting that drive-through penalty relatively early in this race. Not exactly enjoying that either. Well, let's see. Alright. Alright, and then we're on with Pierre Moreno. Luis Inas into the pit stops. Taking it nice, trying to go for the undercut potentially. Whereas I think some other drivers might be also looking to see if they can hold out for their pit stop, get on some dry tyres maybe. Oh, Pierre with an attempt of Andrews. If this goes wrong, there will be hell to pay. And he's on the wet line on the inside. And, oh! He slid out on the wet line on the inside and is coming to the side of Andrews. Pushed him right off very, almost violently, and then it's a bit wiggly as well. He gets the position, but we'll see if the stewards have something to say about that in around 45 minutes or so. What I'm going to do is, just while we have a little bit of a lull in the action, I'm going to leave you guys with the smooth engine noises for a couple of laps. Now, I saw that mentioned earlier that we should be getting on board with Varvarud in the McLaren, and I fully agree. The audio of the passenger side of Varvarud is just going to be wonderful, but what I will do is, with coming up close to the car in front, James Andrews, the Wins Copper Suit car, let's go on board with him, and I will be back after a couple of laps of you enjoying this. I say that, a couple of laps of enjoying it, I'm about to cut away for a second, and James Andrews just hurtles over the apex of the corner. I have no idea what was supposed to happen there, but let's have a look. That's what the end result of it. We'll see if we can go back a little bit further at some point, but and also just another yellow flag for Benke. Let's have. Oh, and I come back just as we see Christopher looked on some very old tyres and a little bit less fuel coming back onto the track. Now, we have Mike Bank, the 149, that lovely V12 over the one of my favourite liveries, rock and stone indeed. Coming out of the pits to rejoin us back in P8. Let's just catch in on one of our fastest drivers so far, Mr. Jimmy Smith, K-Pax Racing, 107 boat. And that is not a telephone number. Do not ring 555 at 107 boat. Let's just have a look and enjoy some It's a relatively peaceful spot, but Bank came out just in front of Todd Curtis, the Water Boy, 90 Porsche, not attributing himself to any nation or peoples. We have an absolute barnstormer as he gets up behind that V12. Now, still, a kill down the bottom, 29 Mercedes yet to pit, as well as Christopher Brown, Maudsley and Kovacs. Again, Maudsley and Christopher Brown starting right at the back of the grid. Not making it for qualifying, barely getting out of the garage for the start of the session. And Todd Curtis is half a second behind Mike Bank. The two locked in for a while now, the two winners of the silver and bronze division. Todd Curtis surely more than likely not going to be in the bronze division for the next season, which will be our first season in the year of our Lord 2024. Andrews vs Bank lap times. So, Jay Andrews last lap time of a 1:35.0, and as we cross the line for Mike Bank shortly, or not shortly at all actually, and Moreno has taken over Chris Brown, coming out of one of the hairpins. You have to bear with me, but the best lap time for Bank so far this race for yourself deep is a 1:35.5. Best lap time for Andrews a 1:35.0, and I'll get you that last lap times for them as they come across the line as well. And with 25 minutes left in the race, we'll give you a update on some of the drivers. A kill now going to the pits to serve their pit stop mandatory, of which only 3 drivers are yet to complete. Chris Brown, who is chasing down Pierre Moreno, who's just keeping it on that dry line. Bank and Andrews on their last laps, being a 35.265 for Benke and a 35.225 for Andrews. So those two silver drivers are within a few hundredths of each other, and pretty much have been for most of the race. Just a different strategy on them, and there's only about 3 seconds that separates them. Speaking of Andrews and things that separate them, he is only a few tenths separated from the man in front, who Curtis makes a little bit of a gaff of it. Is slowly keeping that position, but it's going to be very slow in the next sector. Does he gain an advantage by cutting the course? He's lost a few tenths to the car behind him, but now he's still got track position and he's going to be able to get that time back. Let's have a look if Andrews can make things right, taking an overtake on pure merit. I'm going to stay behind both of them for this. Right up his rear end. A little bit on the bumps, on the Verstoppers. James Andrews is going to be quicker, but he's going to have to take the wet line. But he's going to get the dry line for the corner, which should mean a later braking. Is he going to get tapped? He gets tapped, but not turned. They're going to keep side by side. Maybe Curtis pulls out a little bit from one of his future rivals. But that does mean that Varvarud is now right behind him, and he gets the position back. He slides up. This is not NASCAR. But that was an absolutely amazing re-overtake for Curtis that leaves Curtis, Andrews and Varvarud like lined up, ready to pounce on each other for a single mistake. Two McLarens chasing a Porsche through Belgium. Now, that is going to be a very interesting. It looks like Andrews might get taken by Varvarud, but no, Varvarud doesn't want to leak down the inside. Again, that heavy cut from Curtis. He needs to be careful. Because he is dangerously on the edge to racking up that drive-through like a few other drivers already have. We want to race close, we want to race fair. It was very, very close to Andrews being turned over the nose. And a dive from Varvarud gets it slowed down. Stops himself on the apex. But keeps going. Doesn't spin it, doesn't let himself be imposed by the copper suit car livery. And now Andrew's even further behind Curtis. Maybe the car not set up for wet racing, as we saw at the start. A few of the people on dry tyres, having to pit after sliding around a lot. It's going to start clearing up soon, but the track is now slightly less wet than it was, but that dry line still there for the maximum grip. Coming off that line will still lose you a few tenths. Now, we're going to stay with these three for a while because the field has kind of separated itself out, as you can see on the relative timing. Moreno 45 seconds behind Jameek. So far back it's not showing. And these three are scurrying around on each other's rear ends. Let's have a look what it looks like to be a McLaren driver with two very similarly paced cars in front of you. This will become a passenger on James Andrews' car. Just appreciate the engine noise of that wonderful McLaren. Oh, Varvarud tries to go up the inside and takes out Curtis. He just pit maneuvers him. He does not have to have a look if he has the space. We'll have a look. He just goes up the inside. The car in front's already turning in. Makes no attempt to slow down or put on the brakes at all, it looks like. That is going to be a rough decision for the stewards when they look at that shortly. And Curtis is coming to the pits because he's received a drive-through for cutting the corner after that. Maybe he cut the corner on the double chicane up. It's very strange that he would have got a drive-through for cutting the corner after that, because he should not have been taking corners of that incident, and he did not have it before the incident happened, so he'll have to clear that, and it's going to take a bit of a shine on what should have really been like a grandstanding race for the driver who's been so dominant this year in the bronze category. Again, Andrew's just chasing Varvarud, wanting that last little spot. He's in the top 10 now. There's not really anyone that can really challenge him for it, but he does want that that chase to be the one of the faster McLarens on the track. Oh, and a slow Varvarud taking on to the exit. Kovacs is coming to the pits in front of Maudsley. So that's going to be an interesting little battle, that once Maudsley comes into the pits, we'll be able to see what happens to them. Andrew's getting a very, very quick line. Varvarud coming alongside, squeeze him a little bit. Andrew's farthest you can be, breaks it. Very similar to what we saw earlier, less close, no contact. As you said, rubbing is racing, but we don't want to have these guys go off and ruin what has been an absolute excellent battle. And looked gets Brown further up the track. We'll have to see where Brown ends up after his pit stop, but it might be that the tyres are finally starting to go for him. But the track is now drying up a little bit. You see the track temperature rising slightly, and what would have been a 7-minute 30 call is now going to be a 15-minute one shortly. These tyres having to go a little bit longer than people might have expecting through practice, which is potentially going to cause a little bit of interest later on. Wait to see when our Maudsley goes into the pits. You can see Kovacs has come out just behind Jameek Smith, which is a pretty nice place to be. Get to see a beautiful Bontley. And Andrew's a little bit slow out of that corner. Let's get back online with Kovacs. Finally pitted, some fresh rubber, potentially on dry tyres. Try and keep that dry line. We'll have to see if we see any slipping and sliding that isn't normal Porsche behaviour. But the rain's gone, the track is damp, it's going to dry up as we go through. An extra 10 minutes of track drying means some of these drivers on wet tyres may get punished later on. And we might see some interesting strategies play out. Andrews follows Varvarud into the pits. They're both going, it looks like, for dry tyres. Now remember, both of these gentlemen have already done their mandatory refueling pit stops. So this could just be no fuel, change tyres, see if you can keep with him. This is a very interesting little premise that we've got going on. Another car coming for dries. That's Varvarud off the blocks. When are we going to see Andrew start moving? Because he was right behind him, and has he taken fuel? Is he potentially made a mistake on the pit entry and asked for fuel from his team? That might have just ruined the race for him. Because Kovacs chases down Jameek Smith. As Andrews finally gets out of the pits. Much slower pit stop than I assume he was expecting. And again, they're using a lot of that chicane. We know you can use all of the red and white as the track limit. But it's very easy just to make a small mistake on that and either get a track cut penalty or potentially worse and spin it out. Now, speaking of pit stops, Maudsley still has a pit stop to go. 45 seconds is the gap to Louisianas, with only 3 and 1 second splitting the cars behind them. So, when Maudsley comes in for this pit, it is going to be vitally important. Make it as quick as possible. Only going to be a small amount of fuel, and looks like Curtis is coming into pits as well. He probably realises that it's now the crossover for the dry tyre. Some of these early pitters are potentially going to make a second stop. As Kovacs comes up to lap Nilsson, he's going to have a little bit of a break and see what is going on. Gets out of the way. Yeah, Varvarud in for another pit stop. We just saw the gentleman pit. I don't know why he's gone in for another one. Maybe the tyres didn't swap. Maybe he is just retiring the car after some potential malfunction. Slowman right behind him. Curtis also in the pits as well, but maybe the extra 10 minutes did mess them up. Maybe they had it all pre-done, ready to go. Brown coming in for their mandatory pit stop as well. Maybe they had everything set up for a 50-minute race, and the extra 10 minutes has played havoc with that plan, which means Andrews now gets to re-overtake everyone from his slightly slower stop. Maybe if you pre-set up just to do tyres and you need extra fuel, and you don't re-change it in the race. Yeah, no close racing. Let's get online. Let's get a little bit of time looking at what is an absolutely gorgeous white, black and orange livery for Maudsley. Sam Maudsley, Team Parker Racing for 117. Bentley, again, good Bentley representation. 3 out of the 17 drivers to start, and Achilles can give it a drive-through. Already many laps down. And Maudsley coming into the pits. Like I said, this is where it's going to get real exciting. We want to look at the gap for Louisianas, which is going to fall and fall and fall. Currently sitting at a 38-second gap. When Maudsley stops, we're going to have a countdown. And it's going to be a fun one. Remember, when Luizinaz passes, there is a good chance that Smith and Kovacs will join them. 30 seconds now, and Morsey has yet to stop at his box in the second garage with that lovely rainbow colour scheme. And he's got a 20-second gap to Luizinaz. Let's go on board with him so we can see where he is, coming around that final part of the chicane. Coming out on the exit. Now he's on the back strength as Morsey dropped yet. Morsey still on the brake lights. 3, 2, 1, and there goes Luizinaz. There goes Jameek. There goes Kovacs, all passing him. Now we have a race for the lead with only 3 seconds separating them all. Jameek, Smith and Kovacs potentially could work together. Try and give the draft. Try and keep it going. Try and catch the 111 McLaren. Or they could go all out for blood. Jameek taking to the left-hand side. Comes across to the right. Now what would normally be last lap for the leaders at this point. There's a whole extra 10 minutes on top of our scheduled race timing today. Which means we're going to finish this race round about 9 o'clock UK time. So we have a nice evening of celebrations. And Varverud has got a drive-through as well. A lot of drivers not respecting the track limits. This track has about 3 real or 4 actual chicanes in it. And there is a lot of potential. And Kovacs is just going to run right along the inside of Jameek and just take an absolutely beautiful overtake. I'm going to see if he can cut it back. He can't. We want to re-watch that. Just sends it up the inside. Keeps the space. No touching. Just gets on the throttle at the right time. That is absolutely beautiful driving. And then locks it down. Now, as they're coming to T1, got a little bit of lap traffic in front of them, and they're going to keep it. The lap traffic almost comes across, but Jameek, oh, very daintily puts that Bentley round, which is not something that you normally expect. Yellow flag from Curtis, who's in the wall. Now, was he bumped by someone, or was this by his own accord? And is this might just be a case of people cutting that first chicane a little bit too much? Yeah, unsettles the car, gets back on the throttle when you'd expect it, but when you're pointing towards the wall and get back on the throttle, you normally hit it. And Kovacs' overtake has allowed him to pull Jameek within a second of our leader. Your leader as well, Mansas Luizinaz. One of a name that I cannot pronounce for love nor money. But this is going to be a very fun little race coming up. Jameek has kind of fell off a little bit. Kovacs being dragged along, is alongside coming into the chicane. He's not going to give him the position, not going to give him the place for free. Now these two battling. A little bump, little grind. Track is nice and greasy. The Luizinaz on the wet tyres, having to stay on the wetter line to not kill them. But it does mean he gets to keep the inside, gets to have a little bit of race. But the switchback is beautiful by Kovacs. Kovacs is on the dry line where he wants to be, but he's going to have to give up a little bit of space. But that might just be the extra heat going into Luizinaz's tyres is going to ruin him for the next 8 minutes. And he looks clear. Can the McLaren keep with him? Look at this. 1, 2, and 3. This is the kind of racing that you want to see. Absolutely beautiful from these 3 gentlemen. The strategy changes, the vastly different cars. Just 3 incredible drivers that just get to enjoy the next 7.5 minutes. It's going to be about 4 or 5 more laps after this. And we will be live with your winners of the season. Which look relatively locked in. But Jameek now half a second from Luizinaz. Like I suspected, being on those wet tyres now, going to be a hindrance with the track dried up pretty much completely. No more dry line, no more wet patches. I just get to enjoy this as much as you guys are. Maudsley putting in a best lap of 30.962. Absolutely barnstormer of a lap for the Bentley, showing its supremacy. Speaking of Bentley supremacy, the Kovacs has got 3 seconds gap clear first, while Jamaica's just stuck behind the McLaren. A very narrow track, relatively hard to overtake. You kind of have to do it into T1 if you can. But the exit of the turn of the last corners are pretty rough to do in what is essentially a tugboat with a V8 engine. Now, some cars can go onto the inside of that right-hand hairpin, but Bentley not really one of them. It wants to really abuse that top-end energy of it. If he can get a good exit out of the last part of the chicane, and he looks like he has, that is going to be an absolute barn. He needs to keep the drag though, otherwise he's going to get left behind with that flat-ass front end. He's going to put his nose up the inside and he gets squeezed by Lewis and Nas. That is some very good defensive driving, but also incredibly dangerous. One wrong move from Jameek and he would have got the McLaren would have turned itself over his nose, keeping that tight. But you can't just give it the position for free. But this is what happens when you have incredibly confident drivers, and he's getting flashed. Now that is rude, just because he is potentially on not the greatest tyre set. Maybe you might feel he's faster. If you can't get the move done, that is on you, Jameek. You need to find a space or a place to push past this car in front of you, and I think you can do it. Jameek having a world of a strategy, being able to start on the wets, but to essentially do the inverse of a lot of people, you still need that absolutely gangbuster of a move. So again, we come into the second to last corner, set up for the last one, which you're setting up for T1. Now he's a little bit further back than he was previously, but if he stays behind the slip, you can get a few car lengths. Here's the late break, keep it going. Eat into that lead little by little, because now you're on what might be the penultimate, or you're coming up to the penultimate lap of this race. Kovacs clear up the road, almost a 10-second gap, because these two have been fighting the entire way around, doing laps 3 or 4 seconds quicker than everyone else that isn't named Maudsley. Maudsley has also eaten into the lead of Jameek, now only 3 seconds behind, doing mostly laps that are about 4 seconds quicker. So this has quickly turned into potentially a relatively dull race. Has now come into its own. In the last 2 laps, we are potentially going to have a 3-way fight for second place. And you're going to see every single moment of it. Rest of the pack have relatively separated themselves out. Not really looking at any overtakes other than between these 3 gentlemen. We have Mantas Luzanas, who is keeping the Bentleys at bay. This is going to be a battle of British engineering, and Maudsley, with a much fresher tyres, just gets the overtake done on Jameek within a couple of corners of being in striking distance. Now, Hopefully, Jameek can stay with him and keep that podium position alive. But he has been on those same tyres for some time. And Maudsley has fresh softs and is going to push his way round and in the middle of... And very carefully does Lewis and squeeze the Bentley. He's going to look to the inside. He really probably shouldn't. That's a very risky thing to do. Where is Kovacs running now? He is about 15 seconds up the road. He'll be coming up to start the last lap of the race shortly. We will watch him as he starts that lap. Well, Jameek now losing a few temps. Potentially tyres have started to go from under him. Just wants to bring it home now and finish the last race of the season. Kovacs now on that final part of the track. Coming around to start the final lap of the race.
Leaders on final lap now.
He was able to do it at Silverstone. He did it 2 weeks ago at Imola. It's looking like a three-peat is on the books for Martin Kovacs. And a fourth class win for Menke and for Curtis, it is looking like. Speaking of Curtis, he is going to end the season with a very nice overtake on the inside of the McLaren of Daniel Scott. One more lap to go. Jameek half a second off. He's got one lap to go. He's got about 9 or so corners. I have to go rapid style. He's going to want to late brake as much as you can into the next chicane. Be right alongside for the hairpin. With worn tyres and potentially any number of bumps and dings on that car that is slightly affecting him. There's a bit of a wiggle out of there. He's been looking quick, he's been looking racy, he's had an incredible strategy, but he's looking potentially like he can't do it. Kovacs comes along the line, wins in Zolder. Maudsley coming up only 15 seconds down the road, despite starting at the back of the grid. One of the most impressive drives we've seen. And Benke and Curtis both finishing right behind each other. A lap difference, but that is one hell of a race. Andrews in the gravel towards the end as well. Moreno now coming around to finish, but that is looking like after 60 minutes of very, very competitive racing, that is going to be the last on-track action for Racing Pals until the new year. You bear with me, I will pop up our patrons and thank them for their support while I go and arrange to speak to our championship winners for Season 9 of the RP series. And I am here with Racing Pals Series Champion in the Platinum category, Kovacs. How are you feeling?
Really good. It was a really fun last race for the season.
Very, very good. Yeah, it was interesting with the wet weather. Seems like some people got caught out on that. How did that factor into your plans? Did you predict that at all?
Uh, to be fair, not. I just saw at the end of qualifying that it was gonna rain. It was on the same day, so I prepared to do a rainy race. Um, and yeah, it was quite hard with the strategy. I've managed to put one together, which was really good.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it seems like it was a pretty confident drive. Not many big incidents that arose in the race, which was quite nice. Was there at any point were you concerned towards the end with trying to get past some people? Saw there was quite a bit of traffic come into it. Was there anything that was out of plan essentially for you?
I was a bit scared at first, because I destroyed my wet tires, so I couldn't get those lap times in. And the second one was when I pitted and I saw Jameek going past me, and I was really scared because he was behind me, I think.
Uh, yeah, Jimmy, constantly on camera, absolutely worldly of a strategy. Started on the wet tires, it looked like, but kind of I don't know if they changed tires at all, but it looks like he kind of had a bit of a slower second half of the race, um, which kind of meant that they slowly fell back. But yeah, it was some good fights with for yourself with Chris Lux as well. Absolutely just great to see a lot of drivers like constantly fighting in this race. Was there so yeah, absolutely wonderful. Three wins for yourself of the season. Um Clear points leader by the end of it. Looking forward to next year. I assume we'll have yourself back.
I assume so, yes.
Very nice. Is there anything particularly you're looking forward to? Any track or anything you're looking forward to racing on next year? Anything you're looking for upcoming for RP at all?
Not really. I'm hoping that I can keep the Porsche.
Yep. No, that's absolutely fine. No worries at all. Well, your platinum driver champion, Martin Kovacs. Is there any final words you want to say? Any thanks or anything for people along the way?
I mean, thanks to Racing Pals for doing these seasons. It's chef's kiss.
Absolutely
But that's
wonderful.
it.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, yeah. Once again, for your platinum driver champion, Martin Kovacs. Absolutely amazing season from you, sir. Take care. We'll see you in the new year.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. We can pretty much go straight into our next interview. We have Mr. T. Curtis, uh, who is going to be gracing us with their presence. I'll get them in a moment. And I am here with your bronze category champion. Four race wins on the season, Mr. Todd Curtis. How are you, sir?
Tired. That was an exhausting race.
One hell of a race. 10 minutes longer than I think it was planned to be.
Yeah, that didn't see that one coming. Wasn't really prepared for the rain.
Yeah, I was going to ask for the rain. It seems like a lot of drivers were starting on dry, and the fact that it was pretty much wet from the get go did that hamper yourself at all? Were you able to get into the pits nice and safe?
Yeah, I got into the pits okay. I was really hoping the rain would last for the entire rest of the race after it kicked in. but unfortunately that wasn't the case.
No, yeah, it was a bunch of extra pit stops taken by some people. And I assume, yeah, that strategy with not you weren't really expecting to have to go for a second pit stop after the first. Um, I saw that you kind of pitted in with a few other people as well. Did you have to follow anyone into the pits? Was it mentioned before that the pit entry can be a bit risky? Was it everything all okay on the second pit stops?
Yeah, I was good. There wasn't really anyone around me, and I didn't really have anything to lose in this race, so I just wanted to be on dries, and I wasn't too concerned. And I was actually kind of surprised that there was as many people taking a second pit as there were.
Yeah, it seemed like it ended up being about half the grid. There was a chunk of people that actually started on the wet tire and had their pit stop relatively late in the race. So there's a lot of different strategies. It was a very interesting one with the no mandatory tire change shake up. Um, so yeah, 4 wins for yourself with a second place at Panorama. I assume that's almost as good as you could have expected to come in for the season. Uh, any,
Yeah, I was really just hoping to, finish top 5 at least. I wasn't really expecting to take the championship, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Absolute barnstorm of the season. Yeah, I asked the previous Mr. Kovacs as well. I assume you potentially be joining us for the first season in the new year.
Yep, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. And looks like with your result, there is a potential that might be put into that silver category, driving with some of our longer running drivers. Is that a challenge that you're looking forward to if it comes to it?
Definitely. I was getting close to matching pace for some of the silver drivers, so it'll be nice to be in a competitive bracket with them.
Very nice. And just a final question with potentially being the last year of updates for ACC, is there any track or anything that you haven't been able to drive on in RP series that you'd look forward to if it was announced for the calendar next year?
Honestly, just recently got into racing this year, so I'm not 100% familiar with all of the tracks,
Uh,
but I would love to see the new Mustang GT3 in the game. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
a man of fine tastes, I see. Yes, hoping for that in the next update, so then we can have Ford motor energy around RP series for a little while. Well, absolutely wonderful speaking to yourself, Todd. Is there anything you want to say to anyone? Any thanks for people throughout the year at all?
Yeah, just thanks to everyone that stuck it out. It was kind of a bummer to only see 16 cars in this last race, but I appreciate everyone that made it to as many races as they could. Obviously, life happens, so things come up, people can't make it, but appreciate everyone showing up and giving it their all.
Well, thank you very much, Todd. Hopefully you enjoy the Christmas period and the New Year, and we'll see you in season 10.
Awesome, thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Take care.
Bye.
And would love to say that I have Mr. Benke on the line ready to go, but our venerable muscle is not with us at the moment. Potentially has to run off. But just some highlights again: 4-win season for him and a clear victory. Only taking a third at Silverstone, where Jürgen Hutson took the win there. But yeah, that is it for season 9 of the RP series. And for anyone who is still with us, behind that, we have a special announcement. Yeah, we are returning to Bathurst in lovely Australia, and next year, 27th of January, 4 p.m. start GMT. GT3 only. I will probably be in that live stewarding team as well, keeping the racing fair, clean, and fun for 4 hours. So I hope to see as many drivers as possible on the grid, see some new stuff, and we will see you next year. Stand by in our Discord at the link that you can see, and I believe on the channel description. for any announcements for RP series and other potential upcoming interesting things. Until then, I've been Jack. This has been RP.